This is as far as I would like to see vaccination go. No, if it's safe, I'd like to see it go further than that. But this will be, if it is what the JCVI recommend, an important step forward.
There's the clarity, that's what we needed.
Also this lunchtime, 13-year-old Sky Brown makes history in Tokyo, becoming the youngest ever Briton to win an Olympic medal. Thousands are evacuated in Greece as a huge fire destroys everything in its path in the suburbs of Athens. And a holiday warning why some package deals could leave you with nothing if COVID rules change.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. Ministers are to announce that all 16 and 17-year-olds in the UK will be offered a COVID jab. The rollout of the vaccination programme is expected to be in response to new advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. At the moment, only those 12 to 17-year-olds with significant underlying health conditions or those living with others at high risk are eligible for the vaccine. It's thought the move, in line with other countries, including the US, could help prevent a surge in cases before schools return for the autumn. With more, here's our political reporter, Shihab Khan.
More than 46 million people have had at least one dose of a COVID vaccine. And while the rollout has been in full swing, all children haven't yet been offered a jab. Experts are now set to recommend to the government that 16 and 17-year-olds should get a vaccine. And the teenagers we spoke to this morning all seemed quite keen to get it.
And yeah, I guess it's just going to help everyone out. That's why it's out there. It's out there for a reason. I got vaccines all my life anyway.
It's an epidemic within the
So like, it's one more, it's not that different. I think the jab is helping, and I think that we should get the jab so that we can continue normal day life and get back to normal.
Around 1.4 million 16 and 17-year-olds are expected to become eligible for their jabs. At the moment, only the Pfizer vaccine has been approved for those over 12 and is only being offered to those who have underlying health conditions. But if it is extended, a wider rollout will begin in the next few weeks.
We're expecting the JCVI to announce imminently on the latest thinking on vaccinations for 16 and 17-year-olds. So we look forward to that recommendation. Throughout the pandemic, the government have always followed what the JCVI have said.
In Scotland, the First Minister, while playing a friendly game of football, welcomed the potential move, but said she wants the goal to be larger.
If you think about 16 and 17-year-olds in particular, some of them still at school, some of them going on to further in higher education where they'll be mingling with 18 and 19-year-olds who are vaccinated. So is this as far as I would like to see vaccination go? No, if it's safe, I'd like to see it go further than that. But this will be, if it is what the JCVI recommend, an important step forward.
The teenagers we spoke to seem quite keen to get the jab, but there will be some who have concerns. The government will need to explain what's changed and why this decision has come now.
Younger people are contributing way more to new infections than older people. So they're in the younger unvaccinated class. So at the moment, we're only vaccinating a proportion of those younger age groups, and the additional vaccination of 16 and 17-year-olds would reduce the amount of transmission.
The vaccine rollout requires people to be willing to get a jab, and the government will hope that if the time comes, it can convince parents that their children need one. Shihab Khan, ITV News, Westminster.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Penny Ward, who is visiting professor in pharmaceutical medicine at King's College London. Dr. Ward, thank you for talking to us this lunchtime. Only last month, the JCVI said that there currently was insufficient evidence to advise routine vaccination for under 18s. Why does that advice appear to have changed? And in your view, is this the right thing to do?
So I think that the JCVI have had access to a great deal more information than was available at the time that they made that recommendation. When the primary information available to them was from a clinical trial in a relatively small number of 12 to 15-year-olds. Now they have real-world evidence from the ongoing vaccination campaigns in the USA and in Israel. And of course, we've had a pretty good third surge of COVID in our own population, which has been fueled really pretty much by teenagers and young adults in their 20s. So we've had an opportunity to see how much more serious this third wave is.
And Dr. Ward, you mentioned their programmes in the US and Israel. They're already offering the vaccine to much younger children, I think 12 and 13-year-olds. Do you foresee that happening here in the UK? And if so, what is the precise reasoning behind that when it comes to protecting wider society?
So the JCVI have tended to emphasise protection against death from COVID disease. But we need to remember that COVID disease is not just fatal, it also causes hospitalisation and the need to go to ICU. What they were worried about previously was an emerging signal of inflammation in the heart, which seemed to be associated with the vaccine. But we now know that the incidence of those complications of vaccination are very, very low indeed, less than 1 in 25,000 people vaccinated. But in comparison, about 1 in 5,000 people, children, getting COVID will need to be admitted to hospital. And they can also develop serious inflammation in the heart, which is likely to be more serious and cause long-term disease complications. For all of those reasons, it's a good idea to vaccinate kids.
OK, but Dr. Ward, you'll appreciate there will be some parents watching who will consider the risk of their children, as you say, of getting severe, any symptoms or any long-term symptoms by contracting COVID is so minimal that there's no reason to vaccinate them. How do you reassure them?
It isn't necessarily minimal. As I say, 1 in 5,000 children with COVID will end up in hospital, and many of those will need to go into ICU. And that can be very devastating for a child. In addition, of course, there's the risk of long COVID, the consequences of which on long-term health are not particularly well understood at the moment. And it appears in some studies that long COVID risk is as high in children as it is in adults. So if the disease is really pretty much transmitting amongst children, as it is in the moment, then vaccination is a very good way of preventing all of those complications.
OK, all right, Dr. Penny Ward, thank you very much for talking to us this lunchtime. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to Tokyo now, where 13-year-old Sky Brown has stolen the headlines for Team GB by becoming our youngest ever medal winner. She took bronze in skateboarding in a competition that was so full of young people that the Japanese silver medalist was only 12, and the medals have continued to roll in for Great Britain. Sailors Hannah Mills and Ailey McIntyre won gold in the 470 class, and show jumper Ben Mayer also came out on top in the individual show jumping. But there were lows to go with the highs. Katarina Johnson-Thompson is out of the heptathlon after pulling up injured. But it's taken Team GB up to 4th in the medal table. That's a 15th gold medal, putting them ahead of Australia with 48 podium finishes overall. Chloe Keedy has all the action.
There's the kick for Indy. That's what we needed.
On the course, Sky Brown kept her cool. Not easy when you're Team GB's youngest athlete, performing on the world's biggest stage. But this 13-year-old went one better, bagging herself a skateboarding bronze and a place as Britain's youngest ever Olympic medalist. Celebrating in the arms of her dad, all that composure dissolved. Laughing and crying, at moments Sky looked as though she couldn't quite believe what had just happened.
I'm so happy to be on the podium with these guys. They are so amazing. I mean, everyone ripped. I'm honestly just happy to be in Tokyo, but getting on the podium is insane.
It is gold for Great Britain.
In sailing, Hannah Mills and Ailey McIntyre claimed gold in the women's 470 class, making Mills a 2-time Olympic champion and the most successful female sailor in the history of the Games.
I'm just exhausted. I think it's been such a long week, but yeah, massive relief that we've come here and done what we set out to do, and just really proud to be here sharing the podium with these two awesome teams as well.
One athlete who didn't look proud to be on the podium was boxer Ben Whittaker. Not satisfied with a silver medal, he refused to put it round his neck.
I didn't win the gold. I lost the gold, so to me it's a failure, so I'm not going to celebrate silver at the moment. I'm sure in a couple of years I'll look back and see what an achievement it is, but as of now I can't be happy with the silver. I wanted the gold medal.
His teammate Fraser Clark had to settle for bronze after a cut above his eye ended his super heavyweight semi-final.
And he has got himself a brilliant bronze medal.
In the past hour, Katarina Johnson-Thompson's heptathlon dreams also came to an abrupt end when she pulled up with an injury during the 200 metres. As that trauma unfolded on the track, there was triumph in the show jumping final, where Ben Mayer took a gold for Team GB.
38.02 to beat. Can he do it? Yes!
A reminder of how much can happen at these games in the space of just a few minutes. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
The Belarusian track sprinter who refused orders to fly home early from the Games has now departed Japan for Austria. Kristina Tsimanouskaya claimed officials had made it clear she would face punishment back in Belarus after she publicly criticised her coaches and team management. Well, overnight she was seen heading for a plane to Vienna and is expected to travel on to Poland. And there were happier scenes at Heathrow last night when Max Whitlock returned as Britain's most successful Olympic gymnast. Well, his wife and 2-year-old daughter were there to greet him. Now, we're all desperate to get away this summer, but the consumer watchdog is warning holidaymakers against booking with companies who leave people out of pocket if they are unable to travel because of COVID, which, so they found 20 package providers that either weren't able to give refunds or did not provide clear information on their booking policies. Well, I'm joined now by Which's travel editor, Rory Boland. Rory, thanks for joining us. Look, as travel restrictions ease, many more people looking to plan a holiday. Package deals look attractive, especially those that incorporate cheaper testing as well. But Which magazine is saying that we should be wary of the small print, in particular when it comes to cancellation because COVID rules are changing?
That's absolutely right. So I should be clear from the off that package holidays are the best way to protect your holiday. Really, no matter who you book with, you get far more protection with a package holiday operator than you would booking directly with an airline. Now, what this research did was look at the booking policies of popular holiday companies. We had researchers poring over their terms and conditions, contacting them, asking them, what you were and weren't covered for, because we know consumers are very confused, not just about changing international travel rules, but about what they are and aren't covered for. If they do book, will they get their money back if something happens, their holiday is disrupted? That could be changing traffic lights, that could be NHS tests and trace, it could be a future lockdown as well. And I'm pleased to say that in that research, we found more than 40 holiday companies that said yes to all that criteria. They said, yes, we will give you a refund, or we will allow you a fee-free amendment to give you your money back. So if you book with those holiday companies and take out comprehensive travel insurance, it gives you a lot of confidence that if your holiday doesn't go ahead, you will be able to get your money back. And that's really great news.
I mean, the problem is some of the providers say that, if you cancel a trip because COVID rules have changed, the government's advice have changed, but the flights are still operating, they haven't been cancelled, then essentially the airlines retain the money, don't they? And they can't pass that refund back on to you because it's not their responsibility. What happens then?
Very confusing legal area, the relationship between tour operators who you book with and the airline who's operating your flight. You're absolutely right. Tour operators have been put in an incredibly difficult position by many airlines who have refused refunds, often refusing refunds even when they are legally required. That really is the fault of government regulators for not stepping in a more robust manner and helping those tour operators. Unfortunately, if you're a consumer, the best advice we can give you is, well, you need to avoid those tour operators because you don't want to be stuck in a situation where, the government says, listen, there's another lockdown, or we are putting this country on the red list, and you can't get your money back because you would expect to have your money back in those situations. And those 40 holiday companies that we have found that we're recommending, they would give you your money back.
Rory, finally as well, you mentioned there that government rules might change in terms of countries going on the red list. We are expecting some changes to the traffic light system tomorrow. But also just a word of advice for people to be aware of. It's not just our country's rules that are changing and significant, but it's the country that you're travelling to as well. So what should people do when it comes to researching that?
That's absolutely right. I'd make two very brief points. Ignore the speculation. In the last 48 hours, I have seen it suggested Spain will go on the red list, on the Amber Plus list, and on the green list. We won't know till the government actually makes the announcement. These decisions are contentious, they're made at cabinet level, and they're not done till the last minute. As you say, it's not just traffic lights. That only tells us the tests and the quarantine, if any, we need to do when we return to the UK. You need to check will the country let you in. So Bulgaria is on our green list, but it quickly banned UK residents, can't go there. Malta requires you to be double vaccinated. You also, to make things more confusing, need to look at the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office list and check what their advice is, because if they advise against travelling to a country such as Italy, which is on the amber list, your travel insurance won't be valid. So a little bit of homework to do before you.
All right, Rory Boland from Which Magazine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still to come, after Sky Brown's bronze medal, how skateboarding hopes to inspire more to take up the sport. But first, more evidence of the impact of extreme weather. Thousands of people in the areas surrounding Athens have been forced to flee their homes to escape an encroaching wildfire. It's as Greece deals with temperatures of 40+ degrees Celsius in what the country's Prime Minister has described as the worst heatwave in 3 decades. Armani Ibrahimi reports.
A huge cloud of smoke hangs over Athens right now. The raging wildfires ripping through the country, edging closer to the Greek capital. Firefighters are struggling to stop a large forest blaze to the north of the city. Thousands of residents have been forced to flee, with suburbs reduced to ashes and cars melting into the roads where they once parked. Kyriakos Bardis lost everything. He says he feels bitter. You can't understand the feeling unless it happens to you. Officials say this fire is the most severe yet out of the 81 wildfires that broke out in the area in the past day. It's the country's worst heatwave in more than 30 years. Temperatures reaching 45 degrees Celsius, putting a strain on the national power supply and the emergency services. This minister described the fire services efforts as superhuman, saying they've had to adapt to the difficult conditions created by climate change. The world-famous Acropolis is among the ancient sites that has had to shut. The fires are said to be under progress, but for now helicopters, water-bombing jets and hundreds of firefighters continue to fight back. Amani Ibrahimi, ITV News.
Petrol prices have reached an 8-year high. The RAC says the average price for a litre of petrol is now £1.35, while diesel is at £1.37. The rise is being blamed on increased worldwide demand for oil. More people doing DIY, and climate change has led to a shortage of timber. Suppliers say they are struggling to meet demand as post-lockdown construction projects have boomed. Meanwhile, global stocks have been hit by a growing number of wildfires and pests. And the Duchess of Sussex has turned 40 today. The Queen, Prince Charles and William and Kate have all used social media to publicly send Meghan their best wishes. And finally now, let's return to the Olympics and talk some more about Sky Brown's remarkable bronze medal at 13. Her achievement won't inspire the next generation as much as her own. Well, Neil Connery has been speaking to the head of Skateboard GB about the effect it will have on the sport.
Well, plenty of skateboarding going on here in Hemel Hempstead this morning in huge celebrations at this fantastic achievement by Sky Brown in Tokyo. Team GB's youngest ever Olympic medalist picking up that bronze.
Especially because she's my age, I think it's actually incredible how she's on such an amazing level. She's gotten so far. and she has tried so hard, and to watch her, because she's from England as well, which is so cool.
I think she's so inspiring, and she's all about like getting girls into skating as well, which I think is amazing. And she does so much for like the girls' skate community.
So I'm pleased to say I'm joined by James Hope-Gill from Skateboard GB. James, give us a sense of the reaction here last night at that achievement.
It was amazing, absolutely amazing, but horrible at the same time, because Sky obviously fell in her first 2 runs in the final, but then getting the bronze with that last run was just mind-blowing and sort of almost completely gobsmacked. It's just incredible.
How much demand is there out there? Just how popular is skateboarding?
It's becoming more popular. So there's about 750,000 skaters in the UK, and vast majority are boys or male, and so about 20% are girls, female, and but it's growing. So we've seen about a 24% increase in the last 18 months of girls skating, and that's amazing. And I think that this bronze medal will bring profile, increasing participation, hopefully investment, but also it'll bring credibility to the sports, because a lot of people see skateboarding as kids on the street being a nuisance, and they're clearly not. This is an Olympic sport, and we're the top of the world.
James, thank you very much for your time. Picking up on your advice, I'm tempted maybe to see if I can pick up a few tricks and get stuck in here. In the meantime, it's back to you in the studio.
Well, Neil Connery would like to see that very much indeed. Just time to give you a reminder of our main stories this lunchtime. And the government is to extend its vaccine programme to children aged 16 and 17.
Is this as far as I would like to see vaccination go? No, if it's safe, I'd like to see it go further than that. But this will be, if it is what the JCVI recommend, an important step forward.
Your Team GB are up to 4th in the medals table after claiming another 2 golds in Tokyo. They include Hannah Mills and Ailey McIntyre, who won their 470 class gold sailing. But heptathlete Karina Johnson-Thompson is out of contention after putting up injured in the 200-metre sprint. And that is it this lunchtime. I'm back here with the evening news at 6:30 with more on all those stories and, of course, more from Tokyo. But for now, from everyone here, bye-bye.